drug addict, and not every lawyer is, a womanizer or their family's breaking apart. A lot of them are going through that. Yeah. It's the number one burnout profession of the 5. Doctor, dentist, lawyer, accountant, engineer. And I actually do Muay Thai boxing as well.
There you go.
But that's not why the boxing was put in there.
Okay.
Yeah, lawyer who boxes, daredevil. Yeah. Today, our legal system is... People say that it's corrupt and that it's this and that. Okay, yeah, there are always going to be people that escape justice. Yeah. However, justice is always done to them in one way or another.
Only now, ooh, tell me more.
Yeah. Mindful Combat. Inspiring people, inspiring you.
Okay. Welcome to Mindful Combat, the podcast where inspiring people inspire you. All right.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here.
We're here and we are, I have to say this, we are in National Karate Academy. Thank you for lending us a dojo.
And I'm sorry, I forgot my gi. Anyway.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
I am so ashamed of myself.
All right, because we're gonna wrestle a little bit. I brought my son too.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that, but all right, here we go. Anyway, go ahead.
All right. So today we're talking about not only the fact that you wrote a book with your dad.
Yes, I wrote a book with my dad.
Yes. I wish your dad could have been here.
I know, but it was a lot. He actually took my nephew to go see our new office in Palm Beach, which is really exciting.
Okay.
Because I think I might have told you, we actually we got an office for our actual publishing company.
That's amazing. Oh, sorry. That was too loud. My bad.
Yeah. But no, I can show you later. We took video and everything yesterday. It's all right.
Okay. Maybe in the future I could go there and we could do the...
Yeah. Actually, that'd be great. Yeah. We can do a lot of stuff. We've got that and we've got a conference room and everything else.
Oh, wow.
And then it's actually in Harborside. So what's really nice is that if you wanted to even go to any of the restaurants there, it's great. And there's even a waterway. So it's actually a pretty nice place.
Wow. Mm-hmm. All right. That sounds amazing.
Thank you.
So you have now the publishing?
Yeah, so so just so that everyone knows, may I? Thank you. So this is the second book in our original series. So the first one is Gabriel Locke, Bound by Law. This one's Bound by Fate. And then there are 5 more that come out afterward. And then what's really exciting is that really based off of the success of this, we opened up our publishing house.
Oh, wow.
So the company that I was with let go of a whole bunch of kinds of people. And truth is, I was kind of ready to leave anyway.
Yeah.
And that's when we decided to open our publishing house. And it's been crazy because we haven't really been out looking for clients.
Yeah.
And the sheer amount of people that have come to us has been insane. We actually sent a copy of our contract to the president of an association from a different state.
Yeah.
And she said, I think you have the most transparent contract I've ever seen. Wow. So it's kind of sad because there are so many people that get ripped off.
Yeah.
You can find scams online. I met a lady 4 weeks ago now that, basically she was ripped off for $8,500 and
wow.
Her book was gone, they really haven't done anything that they were supposed to. She was supposed to present that book at a conference, couldn't take it because they hadn't finished it.
That's horrible.
Yeah. Especially imagine waiting almost 10 months to get something and it's still not done.
Wow. Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I always ask for the why.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to get there eventually.
No, we'll definitely get there.
But I see that there's a why already, right? Why you opened the company, the publishing part, not the book itself, not why you wrote the book and why you write and why you write with your dad, right?
There's so many things that we can talk about with that, but yeah. So no, the why of the company is just very sincere. We always wanted to do something with books and we also wanted to empower authors. The problem is that if you look at traditional publishing these days, you have almost no control over really anything.
Yeah.
And you get almost no royalties. The first hybrid contract that I ever got was I got to keep 4% of the royalties after cost.
Wow.
And I was still paying a bunch of money and the property wasn't even mine. So needless to say, we wanted to give authors not only control over their property, right, but we wanted to provide them with the resources to be able to succeed.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's about who you trust in business, right? If I'm a slave to you, I'm gonna hold resentment.
Of course.
If I work with you and I say, hey, look, I want to take your ideas and I want to explode, with what you have, that's a much different conversation. Yeah. And I'd say that really it was the success of Gabriel Locke that kind of spawned that, because the nice thing is that people look at our website online, they look at, the things in the press, or they look at the interviews that I've done over Gabriel, and they're like, wow, these are guys that we can actually trust. And then, of course, by the time they read the contract and they look at everything else, they're like, wow, this is super transparent. Obviously, we always ask everyone to read the contract with a lawyer anyway, just to make sure that, everything is completely understood.
Yeah.
Because if you're not a lawyer, there are things that you just may not understand.
Yeah.
But our contracts are very generous. We have two different types of business models. The first one is, we help you and we put you under our label. Yeah. So the publishing house has been great. We started it really off of the success of Gabriel Locke, and what's insane is just how many people have been ripped off. Like we talked about, I've had so many people call me and send me emails, etc., because they're very interested in knowing more about really what separates us.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I would say is that we have just very transparent contracts. We're very transparent with everyone.
Yeah.
Because we also went through that experience, right? We went 7 years before we finally found our publisher.
7 years?
Yeah.
How was that journey? So let's go back a little bit.
Sure.
Right? So, because I want to kind of hear your story on deciding to write a book, because your dad is a lawyer.
Yeah.
Right? So as I'm reading the book, right? I'm almost done. As I'm reading the book, I'm actually picturing your dad and yourself as the characters.
That's hilarious.
Especially the part where he's boxing and you said that you do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. And I actually do Muay Thai boxing as well.
And there you go.
But that's not why the boxing was put in there.
I see.
So I actually wrote the boxing things before I ever started jiu-jitsu or anything.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So this is book 2. Remember that
that's right.
In book 1, Gabriel has a friend, same friend here, that convinces him to come back and do some boxing. And that's actually really just a tribute, if you will, to Cubans in Miami, because Cubans are famous for boxing and a number of different things.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's part of the reason why it's in there. Remember, this is Miami in the 80s.
Yeah.
So Miami's a little bit different now compared to what it was then. But at that time, you had a tremendous amount of Cuban boxers that were famous fighters.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to put that element in there. That's also a bit of a shout out to Matt Murdock, which is otherwise known as Daredevil. But Daredevil's character was a blind, fighter, but he learned a lot from his father, who was a boxer.
Oh, wow. Okay. Very cool.
So that's part of why that was in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Lawyer who boxes, Daredevil. Yeah. Who also is Catholic. Gabriel's Catholic.
That is insane. I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, so what you're reading now this is the second book.
Yeah.
The reason why my dad and I decided to kind of do this whole series was because we wanted to really do this as a project to make up for lost time.
Okay.
Yeah. So at the time, Miami was just, crime was going up and things were getting more expensive and everybody was going crazy here.
Yeah.
And that was in like 2001.
Okay. Yes.
So my family and I picked up and moved to North Carolina in 2004, but my dad actually stayed.
Okay.
So he kept his law office here and he was still practicing, and then he would just come and visit us. But so basically we lived there and he lived here.
Okay.
And obviously he split time, but for the most part, his office was here. His day-to-day was here.
Yeah.
So I think, around the holidays, he'd spend like 2 weeks up there or whatever. But, they say you're supposed to spend 180 days in your state of residence, or a minimum of. And I think he was probably like right at the 200 mark, maybe a little bit less, might have been 180.
Yeah.
But he was definitely here most of the time.
Okay.
So when your father's not around all that much, but you still love your dad, you want to make up for that time. And so what happened was that in 2011, the rest of my family moved back, but I stayed in North Carolina. I was finishing school at North Carolina State.
Okay.
And then I got a job as soon as I graduated in 2013. So we didn't actually start writing together until about 2017, but that's because my plan was to keep living in North Carolina indefinitely.
Yeah.
And I did until February of 2020. And then I moved back.
For COVID?
No, I didn't move back for COVID. I moved back right before COVID. Okay. Then COVID hit. I would have stayed up there. But anyway, the point being was that I moved back to be closer to family. My grandfather had actually fallen and broken his neck. So he fell, he broke his neck. I was helping around because my dad and my mom don't have the strength anymore to be able to pick up just dead weight.
Yeah.
And so, all that happened. And then the pandemic hit. And then I got really close with my dad because I was living in his house when the pandemic hit.
Wow.
And I went from living on my own at 29 to basically doing it all over again at 30, living in my dad's house.
Wow.
So we got a lot done.
So did you write the book during the first one during the pandemic?
The first one, the second one, and the third one. The third one had already been written several times. The third one was actually the first one we started with. And then our editor at the time said, hey, you guys need to write books that are smaller because this one's too big. So it was originally supposed to be 5 books.
Yeah.
Then after that, we were like, okay, well, we have all these short stories. And so he was like, great, write collections of short stories. So we wrote book 1 and book 2 as collections of short stories. And then when he read them, he was like, these are great, but they don't really sell. So can you turn them into cohesive books? So then I had to reopen everything. And that's how you have book 1 and book 2. So book 1 and book 2 are actually collections of short stories that we turned into actual novels.
Wow.
So what's funny is that we've had people read book 1 especially and be like, it blows my mind that I know that this is a collection of short stories.
Yeah.
But it doesn't read that way. And I have a hard time believing that this is a collection of short stories. So I guess we must be pretty good writers then, because we've told people these are short stories and they're like, I love your books.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
So my dad and I, we were trying to make up for lost time, and really it all came down from this case, which was in the third book. And my dad, basically he had told me that case when I was a kid, and I guess I had always remembered it. And so in 2017, when we finished the first rough draft, I actually got on a plane and I went to Spain, and I actually saw, all the parts that take place in the third book, and I saw the different areas, and I've even seen different parts of New York that have surrogate court, because book 3 takes place in Miami, it takes place in Spain, and it takes place partly in New York. And it's inspired by a case that my dad had involving my actual family in Spain.
Oh, wow.
So that's book 3. And then book 1 and book 2 really came from that.
Okay. Because in the beginning of the book, it talks about how these are not true stories. It's more of a pattern of behavior.
No, and that part is true. Book 3 is a little bit different because it has our family. So it's a falsified account of what actually happened, if you will.
Yeah.
Because it's inspired by, you can meet these people, or at least their descendants, and you can go to these places, but the story itself involves a will, which is actually something that came from my family. Okay. Now, in book 1 and book 2, my dad had cases that are similar, but just like the letter says, these are patterns of. So if you were to go look for the names of these people, you wouldn't find them. If you were to look at even some of the cases my dad had and look at the physical descriptions, it wouldn't be the same. Even a lot of the details of the cases wouldn't be the same.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because my father has a confidentiality with his clients. The second thing is, we wanted to make them grounded in realism, but we didn't want to constrict anybody to that, right? So if you're somebody who actually experienced these things, we wanted to protect you, because just in case somebody could figure out it was you, why would we do that to somebody, right? That's somebody's personal business in life.
Absolutely.
But I think what we did was that we created realistic enough characters that people could turn around and say, hey, if this person did exist, he could be my neighbor, or she could be my neighbor, or, I would know this person because this is so true. Or if somebody reads it, they might think to themselves, wow, my cousin went through something just like this. Or, this happened to my uncle, or this happened to my mom, or whatever, right? Because people go through divorces all the time. People have businesses that dissolve because things don't work out.
Absolutely.
People might even be double-crossed in a business, just like the lady I was telling you about.
Yeah.
That, she gave a company all this money and they ran off with her book, basically.
Yeah.
So, these are things that we go through every single day, and we just wanted to take that realism and put it into Miami in the 80s and kind of bring back that 80s flavor without being too overbearing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So there was 2 parts in the book. I was thinking, I was like, I want to make sure that I highlight some things without giving away things, because obviously I want people to read it.
No, obviously. Please read the book. They're good books.
So there's this part, Tony.
Yeah.
Right? I really liked the depiction of Tony getting home and knowing that he might go to jail, and seeing his kids playing in the backyard. And I was reading that, and as I was reading it, a tear came down my eye. I'm like, oh
really?
My goodness. Yeah. And I'm I don't read fiction, and I love reading psychology, obviously.
Yeah.
So I haven't read a fictional book since middle school, to be honest. So to be able to immerse myself in a book and actually have tears dropping down, I was like, oh, I'm surprised, right?
Wow.
And so I was gonna ask you. So it was that point, right? Who wrote that? Because that was beautiful.
So my dad and I wrote that together, but I primarily wrote that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I love just. I think the description was so detailed, and I could envision him kind of going to the backyard and seeing his kids playing, and kind of like this realization that he might lose that.
Yeah.
Right? And then the other part that like hit me too, I'm an adoptive mother. I have 2 adoptive daughters, right? So then the whole adoption, right? As an adoptive parent, you in a way you always hope that you're giving them a life that they couldn't have, right? That you actually did something right, that you didn't take them away from something
Right.
that maybe would have been better for them, right? So when they go and they see her, and then like she's like the lady tells them so they go to the restaurant.
Right.
There's a lady, right? Obviously you wrote this, you know. I'm telling you for the people.
Okay, go ahead. That's okay. I'm just agreeing. Go ahead.
And so they're in the restaurant, right? And so the lady tells them how she met her, right? And then this little girl comes asking for scraps of food,
Yeah.
right? And it's this girl that they could have adopted, that they did, and they chose to do the right thing, right? And give it to the family member, and there she is, and this is the life that she's had, and she could have had a beautiful life. And then you see like both sides, like she could have had this beautiful life with these people that are amazing, or at least that's how they are depicted, right? Is their story. So I mean, they're telling their story through their own eyes. Okay. So and then there's like this bittersweetness, because she did get to spend time with kind of like part of her family of origin, which is her uncle, right? So it's like, okay, is that worth it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was that worth the pain that she had to go through? Or would she be better off with them if they had kept her? So that kind of like stayed with me. That was another point that it made me cry a little bit.
Well, and you haven't even gotten to the end. So,
Yeah.
no, I took a lot of time to, my dad and I spent a lot of time writing this.
Yeah.
And, book two is arguably the hardest book I've ever written in my life.
Okay.
The reason why is because we wrote book 3 first.
Yeah.
Then we had to go back and write prequels.
Yeah.
But book 1 was the beginning of the series, so you could take all the time you wanted.
Yeah.
Book 2 had to be written in 7 months.
Ooh, okay.
I wrote about a third of that book on the trains in Spain on my way to my friend's wedding.
Okay.
Yeah, so this book actually only had about 4, maybe 5 drafts. Book 1 had about 7 or 8, and then book 3 is already on 12.
Wow. Okay, so I'm looking forward to book 3.
Well, you
Because you said this in the beginning.
gotta go back and read book 1. Yeah. No, actually, the best way to say this is book 3 it's really the beginning. It's now transformed into the 3rd book.
Yeah.
It was the original start, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't something that existed before. So
Yeah.
let me explain. When a singer finally makes it, right, or a martial artist or whatever, when they finally hit they get their big break,
Yeah.
that's like what book 3 is. That's
Okay.
Gabriel's first big ever case.
Oh.
Everything he's dealt with right now has been primarily kind of like the junior lawyer.
Yeah, he's
Now,
learning.
he's the second man in a 2-man firm,
Yeah.
right? So he has a lot more experience
Yeah.
than your typical lawyer nowadays in a massive firm would have,
Yeah.
right? Because when you only got 2 people, everybody's got to learn.
Yeah.
But in a massive firm, some of these cases he may not have seen until probably getting closer to 35 or so. He might have had maybe a couple, some simple ones. But the point is that when you're a smaller firm, that you have to deal with what's there, right? Because one person can't do everything.
Yeah.
So what's really neat about this is that I think by demonstrating who he is as a person through these smaller cases and really seeing what pushes him and what motivates him and why he does the things that he does and why he defends his worst clients to the best and why he defends his best clients to the best and why he gives so much of himself is because we wanted to show you really what lawyers actually do. Not every lawyer is a drunk. Not every lawyer is an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, a drug addict. And not every lawyer is, a womanizer or their family's breaking apart. A lot of them are going through that.
Yeah.
It's the number 1 burnout profession of the 5. Doctor, dentist, lawyer, accountant, engineer.
Well-
Less suicide than dentist, but still a lot of burnout, only about 12 years.
Yeah.
But we actually wrote this not only to be true to what actually happens,
Yeah.
but we also wanted to give people aspiring to practice law a reason to aspire. Yeah. We've had people tell us that Gabriel is Atticus Finch when he was young, and that's a big deal. Atticus Finch is probably the most famous literary lawyer of all time from To Kill a Mockingbird. So,
wow.
So it's exciting.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as I'm reading it, so I was reading it, right? And I mean, I don't want to say too much, but he's depicted as like this good person, right?
Yeah.
And I'm here. It's interesting because I know lawyers and they are amazing, right? Like I literally, like, I can think about one of the most amazing people I know is a lawyer, right? And even though I know this, right, I'm reading the book and I'm like, he can't be that good.
That's hilarious.
Right? Because you have this, like you said, there's this stereotypes of how lawyers should be.
Right.
Right? Like they're sharks, right?
A lot of them can be, but a lot of them,
Yeah.
there are always going to be sharks and dolphins.
Yeah.
And the dolphins always protect the shark, from the sharks.
Yeah.
The problem is that, and this could get very deep, but when you have a profession like, being a lawyer, believe it or not, being a lawyer is the highest profession that you can have in terms of morality. The reason why is because you're striving to an ideal, and that ideal is the set of laws by which all of us are governed.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to be your most moral and your most idealistic people, because they are striving to enforce and defend the law that protects each and every one of us citizens, that was designed by our brilliant founding fathers.
Yeah.
So you're going to find a range of people, because when you have something with that much responsibility,
Yeah.
You get paid a lot, if you do things well.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that behind that money are large corporations and wealthy individuals, etc., that'll push one thing or the other. But everybody at the end of the day has to respect the fact that we are a nation of laws, and these are ultimately the ambassadors of that law.
Yeah. And I think right there you spoke like the dolphin, right? Just to be honest, I love observing people. And I've been in a room where I've seen two lawyers that are about to go against each other interact. And I'm analyzing both of their behavior, and I can see who is a shark, who just like did something to undermine the other, then asked for like apologies, right? But not really, because they did it on purpose to set up the case. You know what I mean? Yeah,
and you have to remember that sometimes, even though I just talked about sharks and dolphins, you have to be a shark for your client. Remember, you are the shield of the citizen, not the spear of the government or the spear of the other entity.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do have to play offense with a shield to win.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, our legal system is, people say that it's corrupt and that it's this and that. Okay, yeah, there are always going to be people that escape justice.
Yeah.
However, justice is always done to them in one way or another. Harvey Weinstein got away with all these different things, and then eventually he was caught.
That's
right.
True.
There's everything always is revealed in due time. But it's the infrastructure by which we live and we adhere to that gives us a certain level of not only defense, but it gives us a certain level of respect by which we can go through our lives.
That's true.
That's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you think that Gabriel's a goody two shoes.
I do. Sorry.
It's hilarious. It's not that he's a goody two shoes. It's that in the end, he always chooses to do what's right because he strives for what's right. There's a difference between being a goody two shoes and striving for what's right.
You said that,
I know.
But there is so in the boxing scene, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like he's punishing himself. So he feels like he's done wrong. But again, everything he's doing is like, again, he wants to try to do his best. He tries to be moral in the best way that he can. I feel like he plays detective. I'm like, oh, do lawyers really play detective?
All the time. All the time. You have no idea. Yeah. And you can talk to my dad for like 10 minutes and you'd be like, yeah, this man could have been a lawyer or could have been a detective for sure. For sure.
So it was really nice seeing all sides of himself and kind of like the guilt he carries, which I don't know why, again, because he is so moral. But
yeah, but you can be moral people are the ones that have the most guilt. Trust me.
I agree. No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. All right. So Is there anything you feel that I didn't ask you? Because I think I love that you're.
I don't want to give away the book, so I'm more like waiting for you to ask me, and then maybe I'll answer, this and that. But if I give away the book, what am I doing?
Exactly. That's
so. But I guess a couple questions for you. So you haven't finished it yet.
No.
But it seems like you want to go back and read book 1.
Yeah, definitely.
You definitely want to finish book 2.
I'm very curious about book 3, just because you said it was. So I am a collector of stories. Does that make sense?
No kidding. No kidding at all.
So when you tell me it's about your actual family, like now, like, ooh, tell me more.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited about that one.
I'm not going to say anything until after book 3 probably comes out, or at least until a couple weeks before.
Okay.
We can probably talk about it a couple weeks before, but I don't want to give it away. I'd love to do a before and after podcast.
That'd be great. Yeah.
But yeah, book 3 was book 3. Just so everybody knows, is called Bound by Will.
Okay.
So it's all bound by something.
Okay.
But Bound by Will is a special book because it's grounded in the reality of my family.
Yeah.
It was the first major case that my dad ever really had of that caliber.
Wow.
And, the truth is that lawyers probably go through about, if they've lasted as long as my dad has lasted, they probably have anywhere from 5 to 10 cases that are really like landmark cases. This is one of those landmark cases for sure. And so what's neat about kind of seeing book 1 and book 2 and then book 3 is that book 1 and book 2 really are what develop Gabriel enough so that you understand the actions he takes in book 3. Because book 1 and book 2 are both character led. So they're character driven novels. Book 3 is actually plot driven. And there's a difference between character driven and plot driven. And character driven novels, right? It's your character that carries the book forward.
Yeah.
So there's not necessarily this amazing plot or this and that and the other. A plot driven novel is a little bit different. It has a plot.
Yeah.
So if you look at Harry Potter's probably the only one that's ever been truly an incredible character driven novel and plot driven novel at the same time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You could probably argue the same thing with The Lord of the Rings, but that's more of an ensemble cast. And, obviously the Chronicles of Narnia with Aslan. But the neat thing about really our series is that it's character driven as a series.
Yeah.
But there are certain books that are plot driven. So 3 will be character driven and 4 will be plot driven. And we did that because we wanted to lean in more to the character and the inner workings of who lawyers actually are. But we recognize that there are some cases that you just get wrapped into them and you have to follow it all the way to the end.
Yeah.
And that's not about you. That's about the part you play within the greater mechanism.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Not a bad guest, huh?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the interview.
Thank you.
Yeah. So where can people find you so they can follow you so they can know when the 3rd book is coming, where they can get the book?
Yeah. So you'll have to forgive me because my Instagram is lacking. Boys.
Well, you have one.
I have an Instagram. I've been working like crazy on the book and the office and everything else, so I haven't been able to get to it as much. But the way that you can find Gabriel Locke is you can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, like you and I met.
Yes.
You can find it pretty much anywhere where books are sold. If you want to read any of our articles or anything like that, just type in Gabriel Locke and then by D&H Cancio, and you'll find it anywhere. The first book is Bound by Law, which is the red spine and the red lettering. And then the second book is Bound by Fate, which is amethyst or purple, both in the spine and obviously in the lettering. And then just that all of you know, this is important, Bound by Will be emerald.
Oh, I like that.
Yep. So it'll be a black and white photograph with emerald.
Wow. All right.
And that's Bound by Will. So you can find all those on online, Amazon, etc.
Yeah.
My handles on Instagram are d.h.cancio, so D.H. Cancio. And then we've also got Asturian BC, which is the name of the company. I've only got 2 posts on that, so don't hate me. And then the Gabriel Locke series, which is obviously following the actual series. Okay. So if you open up the book, not only does it tell you, those wonderful things, but where is it? Let's do a reader. Maybe it's here at the front. Oh, here it is. Whoops, it was the very first page. So you can find us on D.H. Cancio, the Gabriel Locke series, the Gabriel Locke on X, and then also D&H Cancio on Goodreads. So make sure to read it and leave a review.
Please.
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you guys so much. This has been a pleasure to be here. And yeah, if you ever want me back, just let me know.
For sure. We said we're going to do the before and after, right? For the third
Well, yeah,
book?
for the third book. So.
I'm already expecting it.
Okay,
And I'm expecting
okay.
your dad to be here.
Well, I'm waiting for you to go back and read book 1 and be like, actually, I'm waiting for you to finish book 2 and then be like, I cried so much at the end.
All right.
Challenge
goodness,
accepted.
don't tell me,
So you're
don't
only
tell
on
me.
you're only on page, what is it, 283? Something like that.
264.
264.
I'm with the gangsters right now.
That's what it is. Okay. So no, by the time you get to page 422, you'll be like, wow.
Wow.
If you cried already, wait till you get to the end.
Yeah, I've cried twice.
Okay.
All right.
Wow.
All right.
Well, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you. All right.
You got this.